Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1896B, and today's date is June 18th, 2019, and the title of the episode is Resignations, Peace, Patriots Know It All, Planned Years Ago. Now, before I get started, I wanted to talk about VPNs. The Department of Homeland Security has officially come out and said foreign-based VPNs can pose a security risk to the United States government. Virtual Shield is located in the United States, which respects user data laws but does not log its users' browser's history. This month, Virtual Shield is offering a Father's Day celebration special of 20% off all VPN plans and all premium add-ons. Sign up for a free 30-day trial by clicking the link below. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we need to remember that the Patriot plan for draining the swamp has been planned out years before Trump even came into office. And this plan accounted for everything that might happen. And it gave them the ability to work around certain individuals and to use certain individuals for a specific task. And this is exactly what we see happening today. Think about all the people that have come and gone within the Trump administration. These individuals were there for a purpose. And a lot of times, the Trump administration brought these people on because they needed these individuals to carry out a certain task. And once that task was completed, they didn't need these individuals. And yes, there were certain individuals which the deep state put into place to try to mess him up. But guess what? Those people are no longer around. The Patriots right now, they are in total control of every situation. Sometimes it might not seem that way. Sometimes you might be scratching your head, but there's a reason for it. There's a reason why they're going off in a certain direction, because they need to. And it's on purpose. Now, we're going to be getting to all of this of why I'm talking about this right now and why there are certain people in certain positions and the Trump administration, the Patriots, they're using these people for a specific task. But first, let's start off with what is happening with Manafort. Now, this is very interesting. Remember Manafort? He was being sent off to Rikers Island, and this is a prison in New York. And it seems that there was a Department of Justice letter, and it seems that Bill Barr, Attorney General William Barr, top deputy Jeffrey Rosen, sent a letter to New York State prosecutors saying Maine Justice was monitoring the planned transfer of Mr. Manafort. And following that letter, the decision to transfer Manafort to Rikers Island was reversed. It seems that U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr is attempting to restore some resemblance of justice to a thoroughly corrupt enterprise. And it seems like they knew exactly what the deep state operatives were trying to do. And it seems like they reversed all of that. Now, that's very interesting. Now, Representative Doug Collins, he is out there and he unloaded on the congressional Democrats. And he went off and said, listen, this is ridiculous. You will not accept Robert Mueller's no collusion this week, saying the entire 2-year investigation was based on nothing but false premises. They said, leave it alone. Don't touch it. That's all we're hearing because they believe that Mueller report was actually going to give them the ammunition to give this president that they've hated for so long. I think when you go back and you look, the American people ought to say, why'd this happen? How did we get here? And I think the president was pointing that out. And yes, they're building the narrative of, listen, there's no collusion, there's no obstruction. How did this all come about? Who started it? Who's responsible? And they're trying to make people think logically. Well, if there was no collusion, no obstruction, why were we even looking at it? Who started it? And this is what we see Collins, Meadows, Jordan all doing right now. They're on the same page. And Trump is continually tweeting this out. Now, Collins continued and he said, Now you see Comey and you see Baker, you see McCabe, and you see these folks going out trying to rehabilitate themselves. I've said this before. Jim Comey's not out on the TV circuit right now because he thinks he's right. I think he's trying to rehabilitate himself because he knows when we look at what actually happened, there's going to be some problems here. He's absolutely right. He's trying to project out there to cover himself. It's not going to work. Now, we know that Roger Stone, through discovery, he introduced 2 different court documents to go after CrowdStrike, to go after these individuals that took him in and pressed charges against him. Well, now Roger Stone is taking the step a little bit further. To date, we thought that the FBI's whole case for how the Russian hacked the DNC, the DCCC, was supported by the CrowdStrike report, and clearly it is. But the deep state and the FBI, the Mueller gang, they kind of messed up. They messed up because they reported that they inspected other servers and laptops to build their case. Now, when we read the paragraph in the Mueller report, it states this. In March 2016, the GRU began hacking the email accounts of Clinton campaign volunteers and employees, including campaign chairman John Podesta. In April 2016, the GRU hacked into the computer networks of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee and the Democratic National Committee. The GRU stole hundreds of thousands of documents from the compromised email accounts and networks. Around the time that the DNC announced in mid-June 2016 the Russian government's role in hacking its network, the GRU began disseminating stolen materials through the fictitious online personas DC Leaks and Guccifer 2.0. The GRU later released additional materials through the organization WikiLeaks. Now, Mueller states as a fact that Russia hacked multiple employees and volunteers of the Democratic Party. If this did occur, then Mueller, his team, and the FBI must have investigated these PCs, laptops, and servers to identify that Russia had indeed hacked them. So, where's the support? We know Donna Brazil's computer was examined by the FBI, and we know that Alexandra Chalupa's computer and smartphone were examined by the FBI. Donna Brazil admitted in her book, and Politico reported that Chalupa had her computer investigated. Deeper you go, the entire Russian hacking hoax falls apart, and the more innocent Roger Stone gets. So now, Roger Stone, he's going to ask for, which he's doing, all the supportive, investigative notes. Everything that they have, everything that they inspected. And guess what? They're going to have nothing. Remember, it's all based on a lie. And they have to continually lie to keep their entire narrative together. Because once any information comes out that they didn't inspect any of these laptops, that they didn't look at the server, which we know they didn't, the whole thing falls apart. And this is why they're continually lying to cover up their lies. And it will never end until you produce documentation or lack of documentation. And that's when everything starts to fall apart. Now, it seems that we have something very interesting that has come out about the Clinton email scandal. The State Department, in a letter to the chairman of the very powerful Finance Committee, Senator Grassley, confirmed Hillary Clinton's classified material violations. The State Department stated that it has assessed culpability to 15 unnamed individuals, some of whom were culpable in multiple security incidents related to Hillary Clinton's use of a private server and her mishandling of classified information. And within the letter it says, consistent with long-standing policy, the department does not release the names of current or former employees participating in the security incident program. However, in the spirit of cooperation, the department can share with you certain information about the status of ongoing review. To this point, the department has assessed culpability to 15 individuals, some of whom were culpable in multiple security incidences. DS has issued 23 violations and 7 infraction incidents under 12 FAM 550. This number will likely change as the review progresses. Assistant Secretary of Bureau of Legislative Affairs Mary Elizabeth Taylor wrote. Now, individuals still employed by the State Department will be referred to the Bureau of Human Resources, and some may receive disciplinary action. That's it? Just disciplinary action for doing something completely illegal? Well, that's very interesting. Let me continue. In the letter, it says, consistent with the referral policy for individuals who were still employed with the department at the time of adjudication, the department referred all valid security violations or multiple infractions to the Bureau of Human Resources. In reviewing any violation of agency policy, including policies regarding the appropriate handling of classified or sensitive information, the department may consider a broad range of disciplinary or other administrative actions. These may include, depending upon the circumstances, counseling, reprimand, suspension, and or separation. For example, the department's discipline policies for employees are laid out in the Foreign Affairs Manual 3 FAM 4100, 4300, and 4500 and apply to violations of statutes, regulations of department policy as stated in the Foreign Affairs Manual or Handbook. Now, the State Department said it considers any violation of security policies to be a serious matter. So think about what is happening here. They're breaking all of this down, and there are 15 individuals that are culpable. Paul Sperry tweeted out the following, breaking. State Department's Bureau of Diplomatic Security has cited 15 current and former officials for infractions or violations for mishandling classified information pertaining to Hillary Clinton's emails, including ones recovered from the Weiner Abbott laptop. The internal review is ongoing. Then we have Trump, who chimed in with his tweet. Wow. The State Department said it has identified 30 security incidents involving current or former employees and their handling of crooked Hillary Clinton's emails. This is really big. Never admitted before. Highly classified material. Will the Dems investigate this? Now remember, this is being put out there a little bit at a time, like we've said before, to get everyone on the same page. As you keep hearing this, and as the mainstream media tries to counter this, people are still hearing it. They're saying something is going on here. And many people, with their gut, they realize, well, am I being lied to? Am I being told the truth? And people start to question it. And once you start to question it and you start to do research, you start to realize, something isn't right here. And that's what the Patriots are doing right now. They're trying to get as many people on the same page before we move forward with this, so it's not that big of a shock to the majority of the people. Now, Judicial Watch, they've been going down the rabbit hole with the Clinton email scandal, and Tom Fitton has discovered quite a bit. His latest discovery is as follows. Now, Judicial Watch, they released the deposition transcript of Justin Cooper, a former aide to President Bill Clinton and the Clinton Foundation employee who registered the domain name of the unsecure ClintonEmail.com server that Hillary Clinton used while serving as Secretary of State. Cooper admits that he spoke with Cheryl Mills, Clinton's former chief of staff, 1 week prior to his deposition and let her know that the deposition has been scheduled. Cooper also said that he worked with Huma Abedin, Clinton's deputy chief of staff, to create the private email system, but can't recall if Clinton had any input in its creation or if he wiped the original server. Cooper was recently deposed as part of the discovery granted to Judicial Watch by U.S. District Court Judge Royce Lamberth in response to a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit involving former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's unsecured non-government email system. When Cooper was asked who approached him about creating the ClintonEmail.com account, Cooper answered, "It would have been a discussion with Huma Abedin." Cooper also testified that Abedin was his primary contact regarding the choice of the domain name that was registered, I believe, in January of 2009. Cooper's testimony is at odds with a 2016 Judicial Watch deposition of Abedin, in which she testified that she became aware of the server through reading in some news article about a year and a half ago when it was being publicly discussed. So right there, we have two different stories. We have Cooper, who's saying that Huma Abedin knew, Abedin saying, I had no knowledge of it. So somebody is lying. We caught them in a lie. This is very interesting. Let me continue here. When Cooper was asked to testify how many email accounts he created or set up for Clinton, he answered, "To the best of my recollection, 2 or 3. Cooper also said that he had Pagliano set up email accounts for Abbott and Chelsea Clinton. Pagliano was a Clinton State Department IT official who repeatedly invoked the Fifth Amendment right to answer questions in a 2016 Judicial Watch deposition. When Cooper was asked if Clinton or anyone associated with them is paying his legal bills for this deposition or any other matters related to Secretary Clinton's use of email, he answered, "In relation to today's legal expenses, it's unclear to me if I'll be reimbursed for legal fees from the Clintons. My previous legal fees, about a year after the conclusion of the congressional testimony through my lawyers, was negotiated for settlement for the Clintons to make payment." He identified controversial Clinton Foundation officials and advisor to President Clinton, Doug Bann, as the individual in a redacted FBI 302 report who had conversations with Coomer and Abbott about the Apple server and who thought adding Hillary Clinton to the server was a bad idea. And just to let everyone know, Justin Cooper, who was a former aide to Bill Clinton, he had no security clearance, but he was able to set this whole thing up. Very interesting. Paul Sperry tweeted out the following: "I was actually dumbfounded when I found out that Cheryl Mills had been given immunity by the Comey FBI because I had myself found that Cheryl Mills had committed perjury and lied under oath." U.S. District Court Judge Royce C. Lamberth. So look at that. She lied and she got immunity. Other people lied and they were put into jail or getting ready to be put into jail. Very interesting. Now, Judicial Watch, they have received more evidence of this anti-Trump conspiracy with the Daily Caller News Foundation. They released 16 pages of documents revealing senior state Obama officials, Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland, and Special Coordinator for Libya Jonathan Winter, coordinated with incoming House Majority Whip Steny Hoyer's National Security Advisor Daniel Silverberg to work on Russia dossier information provided by Christopher Steele. Now, it seems at this point that these individuals have been working on this and they all knew what this all was about. And Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton, they are continually looking at this, and what we're finding out is that Obama knew it all. He was completely informed. He knew what Brennan was doing. He knew what Comey was doing. He pretty much knew all of it. And don't forget, there are many, many people involved in this, and all these people are trying to figure a way out of this because, again, it's the cover-up that's going to get them. Now, I want to go back to Trump's memorandum on providing an order of succession within the Central Intelligence Agency. You might be asking, why do we need to go back to that? Because George Papadopoulos tweeted out something very, very interesting today. He said, "America, do not forget that the current CIA director, Gina Haspel, was running the CIA desk in London in 2016, while Alexander Downer, Australia Joseph Mifsud, Italy Stephen Halper, CIA, Azra Turk, CIA, and the U.S. Embassy were spying on me and trying to sabotage Trump." So the question is as follows. Why was Gina Haspel made director of the CIA? Remember in the beginning where we discussed how Trump uses individuals for a specific reason, puts people in positions for a specific reason to help the plan. And I do believe he put Gina Haspel in this position to help the plan. Think about Flynn and the position that he was in. He knows where the bodies are buried. Gina Haspel was in London. She knows where the bodies are buried. Now, do I think she's going to be the director forever? No, I think Trump has her there for a specific reason, and I do believe this is why the memorandum was put out there, because I think eventually what's going to happen is they're going to get what they need from her, and then they're going to let her go. And the person that is below her is going to be the acting director. And I believe this is why Trump put this out there to prepare for what is coming. And I believe Gina Haspel, just like everyone else, they're there for a specific reason. And I believe they're getting all the information they need. Now let's head on down to the border. We know there's a border crisis. And we know that Trump made an announcement where he told El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and the rest, listen, do something or we're going to suspend aid. And it seems that this is going to happen now. And Trump right now is saying, listen, you are not helping the situation. Since you're not helping the situation, additional aid will not be coming your way. And the announcement was made. At the Secretary's instruction, we continue to implement the President's direction regarding foreign assistance for El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. We completed a review and previously awarded grants and contracts will continue with current funding. State Department assistance in support of priorities of the Departments of Justice and Homeland Security priorities to help the Northern Triangle governments take action that will protect the U.S. border and counter transnational organized crime will also continue. We will not provide new funds for programs in those countries until we are satisfied the Northern Triangle governments are taking concrete actions to reduce the number of illegal immigrants coming to the U.S. border. So it looks like right now Trump is following through on his promise. What else is he doing? Well, Trump is shaking up the nation's green card process by warning legal immigrants and citizens not to recklessly sponsor foreigners who cannot pay their way in the United States. The warning reflects the White House's emphasis on curbing the award of green cards and citizenship to unskilled and poor migrants who will burden Americans by consuming more government aid and welfare than they produce in taxes. Now, under prior presidents, including Obama, George W. Bush, migrants in the United States have been allowed to freely apply for green cards via the Adjustment of Status process. This AOS process is a continuous, unrecognized amnesty because it gives green cards to roughly 550,000 people each year, including many illegals and people who overstay their legal visas. Illegals also use the AOS process to get temporary work permits. In 2018, for example, 257,376 work permits were handed out to a variety of people who applied for AOS. One of the few curbs on the AOS amnesty is a requirement that applicants find a sponsor who will repay the taxpayers for any aid and welfare consumed by the AOS applicant. This curb, however, is unused because officials rarely require the sponsors to repay taxpayers when the would-be immigrants do not earn enough wages to stay off welfare. But officials will now enforce the sponsorship rule, says the new head of the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. On June 14th, he issued a warning statement that explained all of this. So this is another push. And what else is Trump doing? Well, he tweeted out the following. Next week, ICE will begin the process of removing the millions of illegal aliens who have illicitly found their way into the United States. They will be removed as fast as they come in. Mexico, using their strong immigration laws, is doing a very good job of stopping people long before they get to our southern border. Guatemala is getting ready to sign a Safe Third agreement. The only ones who wouldn't do anything are the Democrats in Congress. They must vote to get rid of the loopholes and fix asylum. If so, border crisis will end quickly. Think about what Trump is doing right now. He's stopping the deep state by pushing their agenda. What is their agenda? Well, we're approaching the 2020 elections, and we know that they move a lot of drugs. We know that they push human trafficking, and they need these individuals in the country to get the popular vote. Trump, by putting all of this forward, by following the law, by removing certain individuals and having them stopped at the border, what is he doing? He's stopping this. Remember, a lot of the states right now, they're saying, listen, the popular vote is going to determine the electoral vote. So whoever wins the popular vote, you get the electoral vote. What they're trying to do is they're trying to shape the next elections. Trump right now is countering that. And I believe he's going to be taking this a step further. I believe they're building up to voter IDs. And I believe that might be coming. Because if he introduces this, it is game over. Now, James O'Keefe of Project Veritas, he put out a report on Pinterest, and that was completely removed from YouTube, and it was pretty much scrubbed from the internet, not from his site, but it seems that they don't want anyone looking at this. Well, it looks like James O'Keefe, he's coming out with something newer. He tweeted out the following. Another big tech insider has agreed to go on camera this week. Stay tuned. The tech companies can't fight us all. Big tech won't want you to see our next one, he continued. More tech insiders are coming forward. We are just getting started, and I can't wait for you to meet our next hero. We can't rely on YouTube moving forward, so you can get our videos here when they are released. And he gave a link of where they are. And you can see they're continually pushing out this information to let everyone know that the tech companies, the big tech companies, they're manipulating what everyone is seeing. And they're doing this on purpose. And we know that the government is looking into big tech, and they're looking at antitrust violations. Now they're looking at YouTube, they're looking at Google, they're looking at Twitter, they're looking at Facebook. And we know that a lot of these tech companies, they want to be a public platform, which means they're not liable for what anyone says on their platform, but they also want to be a publisher where they can control what people say. Now, you can't be both. You have to be one or the other. Are you a public utility, a platform where you're not liable for what people say, or are you a publisher? And they're trying to play the middle ground. They can't do that. And this is why the government is looking into this. Because just like the person standing on the open box in a public square giving a speech, that's what people do now on social media. And either they're a platform or they're a publisher. Like New York Times is a publisher. Everyone can't speak through the New York Times, but they are liable for the things that they write, and people can sue them, can sue the whole company. If somebody says something on YouTube, they're not liable. The person is. That's the difference. And it looks like the government is going after them, and it looks like eventually what's going to happen, they're going to be determined that they are a public utility, which means what they've been doing cannot happen any longer. Just like the phone company. The phone company's not going to terminate your conversation if they don't like what you're saying. They're a public utility. The public has the ability to use it. Even though they're private companies, it's a public utility. Now, what's very interesting is that Facebook, they have yet to answer to U.S. lawmakers questions about their new cryptocurrency. Now, what's very interesting, Facebook decides to censorship a lot of people, but that wasn't enough. They're creating their own cryptocurrency because, guess what? If you can control the currency, you can control the people. So it looks like they're trying to create this cryptocurrency, which, by the way, they already have. And the Senate Banking Committee wrote an open letter to Facebook at the beginning of May, asking the social media giant a number of questions about Libra. That's their cryptocurrency. And the question primarily centered around user privacy and data protection, and Facebook hasn't answered at all. Nothing. And we'll have to see how this all plays out. Now, out in Iran, we have Rouhani, we have Pompeo. Both of them are saying, we don't want war. War is not in the books right now. And we know it's not. Everything that we're seeing is the exact same strategy as North Korea. Iran right now is breaking the agreement. Iran right now gave Europe an ultimatum. Europe not following through. I believe behind closed doors, a deal has already been struck. We know that the deep state, they don't want this to happen. We know that they created events like the tankers to try to push Trump into doing something. It's not going to work. And remember, there's other people that were also trying to push something. And this is very interesting because the acting defense secretary, Patrick Shanahan, supposedly authorized sending another 1,000 troops to the Middle East. Now, I believe that he was on a different mission than Trump. I believe his mission was to get something started by bringing in more troops and ratcheting the situation up. But I don't think that's going to happen now. Why? Well, Trump just tweeted out the following. Acting Secretary of Defense Patrick Shanahan, who has done a wonderful job, has decided not to go forward with his confirmation process so that he can devote more time to his family. I thank Pat for his outstanding service and will be naming Secretary of the Army Mark Esper to be the new Acting Secretary of Defense. I know Mark, and I have no doubt he will do a fantastic job. I believe that this individual was either forced out because he was not going along with what the plan really was. He had a completely different agenda, or maybe he saw that, oh wait, I better get out now because this is not going the way we all thought it was going to go, and I'm getting out right now. And we know that there's going to be no war. We know that there's going to be peace. Remember, this has been planned a very long time ago, and they knew what the deep state was going to do. They're intercepting their comms. They understand what is happening, and they're using it against them. The Patriots now are in control, and with every step, they're taking more and more control, and the deep state is losing control. And I think what is happening here, before the OIG, the D-class, and all this comes out, I think the Patriots wanted to make sure that they were completely in control in all areas. Remember, we reported on the intelligence site that was dismantled in Iran and many other areas. Well, it looks like these black sites, they were dismantled. Now, let's say the D-class, the OIG came out, and all these black sites were still operational. The deep state still had control. Well, they would have the ability to create events. And I think the Patriots, they wanted to make sure that they locked it all down before all this came out. Because think about what is happening right now. North Korea, freed. Iran is about to be freed. Syria, they stopped the war in Syria. I mean, pretty soon there'll be no U.S. troops in there whatsoever. Ukraine, they couldn't get that off the ground. The wars in Libya, Lebanon, and the rest, all coming to an end. We have Venezuela, we have Cuba. And I believe before they released the D-class, before they released the OIG, they wanted to make sure they were in total control of all areas. And I think we are almost there. And at the same time where they were gaining control, they were bringing the American people up to speed, getting everyone used to the idea that crimes were committed on the other side and that there's evidence, and slowly drip feeding the public all this information. And that's what we've been seeing. Remember, the plan was planned out years ago, and they knew that they only had one shot at this. And if there was a distraction, if there was an event, it wouldn't go as it was planned. So they needed to make sure that they were in complete and utter control of everything. Not within government only, but everywhere. And they needed people in certain positions. They needed certain information. And it looks like we are almost there. The Patriots are controlling pretty much everything now. What does the deep state have left? The mainstream media to push propaganda. If you notice, the mainstream media stories, they always turn out to be fake, phony, and false. Why? Because they don't have the inside track anymore. The deep state is not the ruling power anymore. The Patriots are. Enjoy the show. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.